Today's episode is one I've been so excited to share because we're talking about something that sits at the heart of true root cause wellness: nutrient rich, whole food nourishment. In a world where so much of our food has been stripped of its nutrients, it's no wonder so many women, especially in the preconception, pregnancy, and postpartum seasons, are feeling depleted. But what if we could reclaim the wisdom of traditional diets, the kind our great grandmothers knew, and made it simple, accessible, and delicious for modern families? My guest today, James Berry, is here to help us do exactly that. James has over 20 years of experience in the culinary world, having served as a private chef to well known names like Tom Cruise and George Clooney. But his real passion lies in helping families nourish well. He's the founder of Pluck, the first organ based superfood seasoning designed to make getting organ meats into your diet both easy and enjoyable. In this conversation, we are diving into why nutrient dense foods matter more than ever, how to incorporate organ meats like liver into your family's meals, the specific benefits of these foods during pregnancy, preconception, and postpartum, and how small shifts in your kitchen can have a generational impact on health. James, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me, Dr. Kayla.
So, from cooking to Hollywood's biggest names to then launching your own superfood company, can you share what led you to the world of organ meats and ancestral living and nutrient dense eating?
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, I did not grow up eating that food at all. And if
Okay.
anything, I was a very picky eater growing up. I mean, the type that I don't think I had my first taco until I was in college. Like it was that serious. Just very, very picky. But I think, when I went to culinary school, I learned about Weston A. Price. And obviously we can't do a deep dive on Weston A. Price on this, but anyone that's curious and doesn't know who that is or why that name is important in terms of us learning about nutrient dense foods, highly recommend looking that up. Pottinger's Cats is another book that's really another study that's really important for this kind of like us thinking about the foods we eat and how they affect our health, but also the generations beyond us. Um, those are both really good informative books, but I learned about that and they talked a lot about the importance of organ meats, and I was still like, not gonna do it. Like, just not gonna eat the pate, not gonna do this, like, I was too picky, and, that really kind of started to become a very hot topic for me when I became a father because I was like, "Okay, this is serious, like, not only do I want to make sure my kids are getting these nutrient-dense foods, but I wanna make sure that I am around long enough to, take my daughters down the aisle or just be a part of their life." I think quality of life is key, but also longevity, right? And so I did the research further, confirmed, yes, organ meats are the most nutrient-dense foods on the planet. Ancestrally, we ate them. They helped us become who we are as this Homo sapien body that we're in, and yet we're not eating them. And so I just, at my chef mind and my chef personality just kind of came out and I was like, okay, how do I like problem solve this? And I identified three main issues. We think they're gross, whether we've had them or not. We just assume they're gross. We don't really know how to cook them. I mean, I think most of the time those actually go hand in hand. If you think they're gross, it's probably because you don't know how to cook them, or that you've eaten them when they were not cooked properly, and thus they were gross. um, so that's those kind of two go hand in hand. And then the third is sourcing. We still, still a little bit befuddled about where to source them, despite having, the internet and ability to do all this research. So I set out as a father and as a chef to solve it, and that's when I came up with Pluck, which you mentioned, which is just my version of like, "Hey, we already have the capsules," which is freeze-dried powdered organ meat, so we already have this modern technique of preserving these beautiful, Mother Nature's multivitamin, these nutrient nuggets, but I don't wanna swallow capsules, and you can't give capsules to kids, and I just don't believe we're designed to be swallowing capsules, for our nutrients. I really do believe we can go into it, but I really believe very strongly that we need to eat our nutrients. Um, And so I just figured, like, we already have freeze-dried powdered organ meats, we already have dried herbs, we have dried onions, we have all these preserved kind of ingredients that will heighten the flavor of this product and make it palatable just like a pate does in many ways. And so I made like my version of a dried pate, and amazingly it worked. Like, people were shocked when I told them, like, "Yeah, you just ate organ meats." They're like, "We did?" I'm like, "Yeah." And it's incredibly concentrated because 'cause they're freeze-dried and powdered. When you freeze dry an organ, you go from 100% down to, like, 21%. Like, it's really, like, goes a long way. Like, we have, one product that's pure, that's 100% organ meat. 1 teaspoon of that is equal to 2 ounces of organs. Like, it's that concentrated, and no one needs more than that. Like, that's what I'm always telling people, like, you don't need much, and, so it's been a beautiful process, and it's really clarified my mission, and you beautifully set it up, but it really is. As a chef for the last 20 years, it has always been about how do I help people eat better? And now the mission is like, how do I make these nutrient-dense foods like organ meats and fish and other species organs? Like, how do I make these foods easily accessible into anyone's diet? And I am happily, reporting that it's working. And we now have the kind of saying that goes, if you can salt it, you can pluck it. Like, that's how easy it is. It's just you got to be able to salt your food and it's done.
I love it. Oh, you shared so much goodness there, but I want to say I have tried Pluck and it is delicious. It is so good. The zesty garlic, I love. The original, I love. Like all of the different flavors. And one of my questions for you today was how much do we really need to get nutritional benefits? And so you mentioned that a little bit there where you said 2 teaspoons is equivalent to 2 ounces.
1 teaspoon is, equal to 2 ounces of organs. Now that's for the
Okay.
pure though, because that's
Okay.
100% product. But, I love this question because that is kind of like it's very the question is a common one, and it's very revealing to how we've been conditioned to think about health. And I really challenge everyone to think about, or just to introspectively, like, look at your life. Like, what are the true movers of health in your life? And I'll offer a few. I mean, like, if we think about, I don't know, brushing our teeth, right? So brushing our teeth, it works, right? It helps with your teeth health. But if we had to brush our teeth for 2 hours a day, there would be a lot of funky teeth out there. Like, that just
Mm.
people would fall off. But because we do it for 2 minutes, it's doable. And I would challenge anyone to look at their life and actually look at the healthy things they do that are sustainable, and the key word is sustainable, right? Are they things that you have to do a lot of or a little of a day? And so the where I kinda go is like, I personally don't find anything that is in an extreme or in a high volume achievable and sustainable. I don't see it. I don't see it in my own life, and I don't see it in anyone else's. Put someone on a restrictive diet, they can only do it for so long. Put them on, get someone eating like some gross, like chalky, like protein powder drink, that they're forced to eat, do every day because it's gross. They'll only do it for so long. Like, so there's a couple of factors that come in. Like, for something to be sustainable, that's a food, it has got to be not only easy to use, but it's also got to be delicious. And then we also need to focus on not just the amounts, but how often do we do it? And that's the piece I think people are not looking at. Like, I know lots of people that eat organ meats when they hunt. They eat those organ meats maybe once 1 month of the year. Is that moving their health? Well, for that month it is, great. But what about the other 11 months? And I'm personally just not interested in fads. I'm not interested in fads. I'm not interested in health modalities that you only do for a month. I am only interested in the things that are as close to nature as possible, and the things that are going to be sustainable in a lifetime. And so that's why I was like, okay, well, you have freeze dried powdered concentrated organs. Is it, the seasoning ones, though that's not 100% product, so that has about 20% organs in it, which might sound like a little, but like I said, when you freeze dry an organ, it gets pretty condensed, and um, if you factor in, like, those grinds, those ancestral grinds where it's like ground meat and then they have a little bit of liver heart, most of those grinds, a lot of people don't realize this, most of those are about 7%, 5 to 7% organ meats. So that's 5 to 7% that's in a meat. That's great if you do that, but you're only doing that when you have ground meat. This is something the power of this product is that you can use it all the time, and you're getting microdosing of those organ meats cumulatively. So you're getting microdosing frequently, and it's cumulative effect.
Mhm.
And what I as a father, where it's really come into play, and this will probably resonate with other families listening, but also people that are pregnant, is that y you're like basically one of the hardest things to do when either you're pregnant or when you're dealing with kids is to change their diet, right? Because when you're pregnant, there's certain foods you just cannot eat, right? You're just like, the texture, whatever the flavor, it's making me nauseous, right? And then kids,
Totally.
their safety is the food that they're eating. So when you change something and drastically like force someone into an unfamiliar familiar or like kind of like volatile, kind of like where they don't feel safe situation around food, because food is emotional, right? It's almost a guarantee that the person's not going to sustainably do it. It's what I love about Pluck is that you don't have to change. If you're eating mac and cheese, keep eating mac and cheese. Just sprinkle this on it. You're eating
Mhm.
popcorn, great. Sprinkle this on it. Like you're not requiring the person or the child to unravel, what's making them feel safe. Like you're meeting them where they are, but we're just enhancing what they already are eating. And so to me, that's been just game changing because my kids put it on everything, put it on toast, they put it on popcorn, we put it on all meats, vegetables, um, grains, starches. I mean, literally, we used to joke like, oh, Pluck is so versatile that you could put it on everything except ice cream. And then a customer said, actually, I tried it on ice cream and it was quite good. So,
That's
like,
hilarious.
we kind of can't find something that doesn't taste good with at this point.
Yeah, I mean, it's a seasoning, and I really like your answer to that in terms of microdosing because it really becomes like a new habit or a new ritual that you just habit stack with what you're already doing versus having to overhaul the way that you cook. Because for me, as a physical therapist who takes a holistic approach, I am talking with my clients about their nutrition and their sleep habits and, their whole picture of health. Because if I were to only focus on their strength and their mobility and just the physical aspect, they're going to hit a ceiling much faster. There's only so much improvement that they can have because nutrition is really the building blocks for the muscles healing and responding to the type of care that we're doing in the office. And so this is a great option, especially, I mean, women in their first trimester really struggle with taking pills and, the scent of liver. I just had a conversation with a patient today who was like, "Oh, it just makes me want to like gag the scent of even just opening that pill bottle." So it's great to know that there's an option of where you can sprinkle it on. You're getting those micro dosages throughout the day. It makes it harder to quantify, but to your point, it's sustainable, and when we look at getting small amounts throughout the day, that has an additive effect over the course of time versus one amount all at once.
Absolutely, and if you are someone that needs to quantify it, the Pluck
Mhm.
Pure is the way to go because that is a half a teaspoon is 1 ounce of organ meats, and you can add it to your smoothie, you can add it to something, and I designed so most capsules are just equal amounts of every organ. Um, I specifically design mine for flavor, so each organ is kind of more pungent or stronger than the other, and so I literally shaped that product so that it was more neutral in flavor, and so even people who have issues with organ meats, they'll still do the pure one that has really ultimately all it is organ meats, and they'll be like, "This isn't too bad, it's not too
Okay.
strong," and I'm like, "Exactly, because I balanced it." Um, but it is 100% product, and it if for anyone that's been tested that's anemic, that has any vitamin A issues, B12 issues, trying to get pregnant, who is pregnant, anything like that, it's absolutely no different than the capsules. You just don't have a capsule. And you can add it to anything. You can add it to a smoothie, a coffee, a soup, a dressing, a sauce. I even mix the pure into ground meat. So I make my own
Yes.
ancestral blend with it.
Mhm.
But I just like that I
I
can
do the
control it a
same.
little bit more. Yeah, you can
Yeah.
control it a little bit more, and it's just but what's nice about the seasonings, as I mentioned, is, it is that microdosing, but I do find that if you look at, like, we are like, the nutrient deficiency is a huge issue. It's like something like 96% of Americans at this point. I mean, a 2015 study showed it was at 94%. And now we're what, 10 years later? It's like it's definitely higher at this point. And it's not getting better, the soils are depleted. Our systems, our agricultural system of how we acquire this produce and get it to the markets, we're pulling them before they're ripened. We're spraying them with organic matter to ripen them, and it's just the minute you pull something from the vine from its source, it's just not gonna be as nutrient dense, let alone the soils that's being grown in are not as nutrient dense. So, we already have an issue there, and then what's fascinating is a lot of people assume like, "Well, but I'm eating meat, or I'm eating fish, or I'm eating this, and that should be enough." And yet, for some reason, it's not. Like, I know people who eat meat, and yet their B12 is low, and yet when they go to organ meats, it increases. So there's just we don't always understand well, first of all, the amount of nutrition we understand is minuscule compared to how much growth and learning we have. Like,
Sure.
we're at the cusp of just starting to learn, around stuff, right? But there's so much more to learn and understand, first of all. Secondly, we cannot like, no study ever could ac can, like, account for that soup effect, like, how everything works with each like, we are getting inundated with toxins from every every which way. And then if you're
Mhm.
taking 5, 6 different supplements and you're eating these foods and you're living this sort of lifestyle in this region with this amount of sun or lack of sun, it's like
Right.
no one has figured out how to measure all of it. And
Yes.
so we really are constantly kind of measuring these things in a bubble and not really understanding how they mix. And so that to me is even more of an argument of like, let's look to nature
Mhm.
because nature already coexists in this kind of holistic, like circular kind of concept, right? And I do believe, and it's funny, like as there's more kind of people and more industry, more and more going back to what nature already does and looking at it, and they're sort of realizing like, wow, nature actually is providing the solution. We just didn't know it. Like, and here's an example. And this is one I just learned about that I think is so fascinating. But people with Lyme's disease are they're using the sting from the bee. So they're taking bees and they're getting stung on their spine multiple times throughout a very specific time, a period, can be sometimes a year. And through that sting, the venom, whatever in that stinger, it then is actually affecting the Lyme and canceling it out, basically. And like they're
Hmm.
healing. And they're using
Interesting.
bees. You know
That's
what I mean? Like
wild.
it's so wild, and that's just one example of many, like, I know a guy who's working with worms to have the worms break down plastic. Like, there's stuff that's happening when we turn back to nature, when we, you know, re when we till the soils or not till the soils, but when we use agricultural pathways that are more aligned with nature. When we look to these sources, the sun is powering the grass is being eaten by the cows, the four chamber stomach of the cows specifically. If they had one chamber, it wouldn't work, but because they have four, they're able to assimilate that power from the sun and the grass into their muscle. And then we're able to process it through them. Like it's a beautiful system that we just have to honor. And
Mhm.
in my judgment, the most kind of the best way to honor an animal is to eat the whole thing, is and not just to focus on one part and then disregard the rest. Like, let's utilize this beautiful animal providing us with this holistic health, and let's see if we can get as much of that nutrition from that animal, and then see if we have to go to supplements. Like, then see if we have to supplement. But right now what's happening is people are just eating mostly, muscle, and then we're discarding, like, literally, to meat processing plants, and I've talked to the people at them. I was at this one in Wisconsin, or sorry, not Wisconsin, Wyoming, and I straight up said, I like, "What do you do with the parts of the animal you don't sell?" And I also asked, "How much of the animal is that?" And he was like, "Well, it's about 49% of the animal that we don't use." And he said, "We do not have a pathway to sell it, and so we throw it out." And I was like, "So what, that's like the organs and all that stuff?" And he's like, "Yep."
Wow.
I was blown away. I mean, people assume this stuff is going to pet food. They assume it's going
Right.
to agriculture or going to zoo animals, or so that's it's getting being utilized in some way, but not every meat processor is set up like that. It's a very antiquated system. So they can only do what they're set up to do, whatever their HACCP
Yeah.
plan allows. And the system just isn't as integrated as I think we all think it is and as much as we'd like. So the
Yeah.
best thing we can do is eat that whole animal, and if I can help you get that into your diet, that is my mission. I'm gonna keep doing it, and we have so many more products coming that are gonna get even more parts of the animal, and even sardine, whole sardine, and other species. Like, we're really gonna pull out all the stops and, like, get this nutrient-dense food into people's diets because I believe we need it.
We do, and that's so exciting because I'm completely of the mindset, like, regenerative farming, we need more of that, and then that nose to tail eating philosophy, our ancestors, that's how they ate, and that's different women ask, "Well, how's come my grandma didn't need to be on a prenatal?" Well, she was
Because they
getting
were
all of
eating the
her nu
prenatal.
Yeah, they were eating it. It was integrated into their diet. Their soil quality was better. Now it's nearly impossible in a standard American diet to get all the nutrients that you need, and because of the micronutrient deficiencies. And so I thank you as a mom for making it easier in how we cook to implement more this nose to tail philosophy, because it is you're relearning in the kitchen how to implement these types of things, because it's not part of how we were raised in terms of cooking from that more nose to tail philosophy for the greater micronutrients.
And I'm all for, like, look, like, if you're like, "Hey, I have access to organs and I'd rather just eat those," I'm like, "Great." I'm not just about selling Pluck. Like, I truly am, like, I want you to be healthier. Like, I want you just to eat these parts of the animal that are so nutrient dense. So how do we do that? Like, yeah, Pluck to me is the easiest entry point. It's just so
Right.
simple, right? As easy as salt in your food. And what's kind of cool about it too is it helps to reshape your palate. So we have our 4 flavors that we learned about in school, salty, sweet, bitter, sour. And the 5th is umami, which was discovered in Japan in like the late 80s. Well, Pluck is very high in umami. And when you put because umami, and that's best described as kind of savory or meaty, when you get umami in the palate in any food, it's a unique flavor. So what it does is it pops the flavor of all food. So when people use Pluck, we're told, "Oh, everyone ate more that night," or "They ate seconds," and they kept complimenting them on the food. So it's elevating just everyone's food. It just makes it taste better. But with kids, when you have picky eating kids, yes, there could be some emotional stuff going on. There could be also like, yeah, emotional or texture based, something going on. It could be physical in that sense, but a lot of people don't think about, well, it could also be the palate. And if they're eating a standard American diet, think about what is the taste, what are the flavors that you find in most grocery store food? It's salty or sweet. So when you have a picky eater kid, that means that their palate is kind of conditioned to those 2 tastes, those 2 flavors. So what you need to do is you need to introduce the other 3. So get some bitter, get some sour, get some umami in their diet. And so we're getting feedback from people that, like, health practitioners, doctors who tell their clients just to use Pluck. So all they're changing is just adding Pluck to the kid's meal. The kid's palate starts to open up and they start to become more adventurous and willing to try new foods. It's amazing. I didn't know that when I created it, but as I've been with it longer, like I'm like, oh yeah, this is making more sense because it's not rocket science. It's like you can recalibrate your palate in 2 weeks if you're used to. I remember when I was a kid, I sometimes would have that summer where all I was doing was drinking juices, right? And then I remember at the end of the summer, I would go to drink water, and I'd be like, "Oh, this is so gross." Is water gross, or is it because my palate has not been get I haven't been drinking enough water, and so all I'm used to is these concentrated Hawaiian punches or whatever juices,
Yeah.
right? And what's amazing is that's happening all the time in our diets, all the time. Whatever foods you're eating consistently, that's shaping your palate. So to reshape your palate, to recalibrate your palate, 2 weeks. That's all you need, 2 weeks. And you just need to pull out the stimuluses. You need to pull out the foods that are, kind of like blowing out your taste buds. So that might mean removing alcohol. That might be removing any kind of sweet products, like any desserts, anything that's hyper sweet. So that's most processed foods, even, right? That might be removing like really high sugar foods. So yeah, you could still eat some fruit, but maybe you're limiting that fruit to like raspberries, blackberries, and blueberries, like really low, like low glycemic, but not too strong flavored. Even strawberries can be too strong, right? But what happens when you pull that stuff out in 2 weeks? I used to, when I was early chefing and I had a meal delivery service, we used to have a program. It was called the Sugar Control Detox. And we would do this program for 2 weeks. And people would come out having lost all this weight. But also they would say, yeah, I tried to have a glass of wine and I used to have three and I could barely finish the first glass. It was too sweet. Or I
Mm,
tried this dessert and I could barely eat it. And yet when I went to eat a strawberry, like that was enough for me.
yeah.
So it's beautiful. It's really, the human body is just, it's just beautiful, but we gotta work with it, not work against it.
Exactly, and I love your timestamp on that of 2 weeks, like, for the moms listening or for the woman struggling with making changes in her own lifestyle, 2 weeks, that's it, that's doable for
Very
anybody to
doable.
really commit to because I think a lot of times, it's like, "Oh, I'm gonna set this goal for the next year, and this new year, I'm gonna do XYZ," and that's just way too long and big of a time frame to start with. Start with 2 weeks, see how your body responds, and then you find that you want more of the nourishing and the nutrient dense foods because that's what's you're gonna make your body feel best.
Absolutely, and, I would offer too for those people thinking about getting pregnant or
Yes.
maybe just learn that they're pregnant, like, I know we kinda said earlier, like, the science tells you gotta have a prenatal, and I'm not a doctor, so I'm not here telling you don't ta have a prenatal. Obviously, we're not gonna give that kind of advice, but everything that is in a prenatal is in the orgamates. And all I ask for anyone that's thinking about getting pregnant is just go talk to a doula or a midwife that has birthed over 1,000 babies, like that has been doing it for like 10,000 hour kind of thing, right? And ask them if they notice a difference between the mothers that have eaten organ meats and not. And I guarantee they will say, I can always tell who's eaten the organs because the placenta is a beautiful color and size. It affects the placenta, and the placenta is the life force of that child, right? It's where the child's getting all their nutrients. It's amazing, but talk to a midwife, talk to a doula, and they will confirm, like, it's truly amazing when you get Mother Nature's multivitamin, because that's the beauty of it. This is not laboratory made. Even with Pluck, we're not doing anything to it except freeze drying it. That's all we're doing. It's still Mother Nature's product. We're just making it accessible. And we don't add anything to it that's contradictive of just being a natural food, a real food. And so, yeah, you'll see it's just amazing the feedback you get. I even had one client, this that directly feeds this topic. So I had one customer say, she was on her 3rd child. She had, very little milk supply with her first 2. She had hemorrhaging with her first 2, and she had heard between the first the last one and then the third one. So between the second and the third one, she had heard about, the importance of organ meats, but she couldn't stomach just eating the organ meats. So she got Pluck, and she just used Pluck from conception through having the child. And she
Mm.
said she had no hemorrhaging, and she's had an abundance of milk. And she's like, all I did differently was I got those organ meats into my diet. That's it. I'm the same person otherwise. And I've this is just one of, hundreds and hundreds of testimonies of just people sharing how organ meats have positively affected their process of birth, getting pregnant, having the child, all of it. I just go back, I mean, I'm not trying to take any of that credit. I just go back to, once again, Mother Nature provides. We just got to utilize her and do it in alignment with her.
Yeah, I love that. I will be asking my home birth midwife her thoughts on that. As we're recording this, I'm pregnant with my 4th. This will be
Oh,
really
congratulations.
Yeah, this will be releasing after I've been able to look at that placenta myself, but that'll be a fun little conversation to have after the birth
Did
of
you
this
look
4th
at the
baby.
previous ones?
No,
Okay,
no, I
okay, so you
didn't,
don't have a
which
comparison.
I don't, but I've used organ meat for my last 3
Okay,
pregnancies.
okay. Yeah,
So,
so
but those first 3 were born in a hospital setting, and this is my first planned home birth, and it's funny because I was talking to a doula friend, and she was like, "Have you looked at your placenta after delivery any of the other times?" And I was like, "No." Like, I mean, I see it, but the home birth midwife, was very much like, "Oh, I will, like, show you the layers of it and, what does what," and just very, like, into it, and, it's just funny the difference there. So I am excited to look at that and then to bring up the organ meat conversation since I do integrate it into my diet.
that's fantastic. Yeah, I'll be curious to hear how it goes. Just some people get grossed out looking at this stuff, but I think, if you just switch your kind of mind frame around of like, look, this is what's been feeding your child for the last, 9 months. It's like, it's a beautiful part of your body, and it's a beautiful nutrient garden of that can, I definitely believe, people that encapsulate or freeze dry their placenta, then eat it throughout the kind of first couple years of having that child. I absolutely have heard testimony of them feeling just emotionally, psychologically better, that the nutrients in that placenta help them with postpartum, and anything around that, depression or anything like that kind of stuff. I know, like, when immune systems were getting wrecked, during those first 2 years of breastfeeding and whatnot, if my wife had her placenta, she always felt better. So, whether
Interesting.
that's placebo effect or not, I don't care. I
Sure.
mean, to me, it's like
Yeah.
if it works, it works.
Right. Right. Yeah, I've heard obviously for some women it works wonderfully, and then for others it can go the opposite way. It's like too much additional hormone input, but it's one of those things. Yeah, try it, see how your body feels, and then you can make that decision for yourself.
Well, so that's interesting. I haven't heard that some people it's too much, but to me,
Mhm.
though, that speaks to why I like us eating this food versus swallowing. So, most people, when they do the placenta, they're encapsulating it,
Mm,
right? And whenever we take a capsule, it's guesswork. And I always use like salt as an example. If I put salt on your tongue, we are in Homo sapien body. This body is what, roughly 250,000 plus years old. And so that, if you think about what communication pathways, what processes have been developed in this body in that time. And then think about, well, what foods are we eating now compared to what foods help to develop that body and to sustain that body and create those communication pathways. We're talking like all these Franken processed foods. We're talking what, 80 years, if that, maybe 100 max. I mean, it's not long versus 200,000 plus years, right? So it's a huge difference. But if you think about it, it's unprecedented that we have ever swallowed so many capsules. Like,
yeah,
never has this happened. This is a new phenomena, and this body was definitely not designed that way. So I use salt as an example of like, if I put salt on your tongue, your body has an immediate response of either the first time I do it, it probably likes it. It's like, oh, give me a little bit more. The
Yeah.
3rd time I do it, your body will start to be like, and in the 4th time, you'll literally be going like, get it out, right? So your
Yeah.
body's having a communication. It's called the neural lingual response. So it's literally getting a communication that's happening immediate of what it wants or doesn't want. If I give you a salt tablet, you get 0 communication. You swallow that tablet, maybe 30 minutes later, you've probably forgotten at this point that you swallowed it. You're like, "Why do I feel so bloated?" "Oh, I got too much of something." So, my kinda argument towards anyone that has a negative effect to anything that you swallowed in a capsule, I would venture if you ate it, your body would have said yay or nay to it. And even
Mhm.
organ meats, if you go to put have you ever studied muscle testing?
Yeah.
Okay, so you know about muscle testing. So that's a very
Yeah.
legitimate way of like assessing, does my body want or not want this? And it
Mhm.
shows up all the time. Like even if we're trying to lift something heavier than our body is can handle, what happens to our grip? It gives out, right?
Mhm.
That is a muscle. That's your that's your body giving out at you trying to lift something that's going to potentially hurt your body. So it is a form of
Right.
protection. It's a
Mhm.
communication. And
Yeah.
that is happening all the time. Whether you're let's say you go to grab something from the grocery store and you go to grab it in your hand, like you can't seem to pick it up. Like it keeps falling out of your hand. Or maybe as you go to grab it, you have flatulence or your stomach starts to turn, right? There is a communication that happens all the time, and it's usually in the form of some kind of muscle testing or energy or something like that. We're just not listening. But if if you're going, let's just say you have a liver pill, whether it's in pill form or in well, if it's in pill form, you mentioned earlier the smell might be an indication, but it's really better if it's an actual it's in food form. But what you could do is technically first bring it up to your nose, smell it, and see what your body how your body registers, and then put it in your mouth. Don't crunch on it, nothing, just put it in your mouth, and does my body how is my body receiving it? And your body will give you clear indication of like, "Oh, take this, eat this right now." Or it'll be like, "Nope." And that's okay. Like,
Mhm.
it's not about just like when you have a kid and you're introducing new foods, um or even if you're not introducing new foods, it actually has nothing to do with new foods. But everyone who's had a kid knows that your kid at one point is loving spinach and all of a sudden they stop eating it and they won't eat anything that's green. And you have no idea why did this happen? Like what happened? And it's
Mhm.
just like, it's just something that happens. They just start to want to control their food. And then one thing that was working one day is suddenly not working the next day. But then that doesn't mean that they never want to eat it again. You have to keep reintroducing it, right? And then suddenly
Yes.
they're eating it again. And so it just goes all over the place. And that's the same with our bodies. Our every day, like you don't every day crave a banana, but sometimes when you walk by that counter and you see a banana, your body's like, oh, I want that now. It's like,
Yeah.
I really do believe we there's a great quote from Dr. Bill Schindler. He wrote a book called Eat Like a Human, and his quote is, "We are the only species in the world that looks to someone else to tell us what to eat."
Hmm.
Well, that already is kind of like, "Whoa," but then you factor in that there's like 9 million species. So
Yeah.
how are we so special? We're not. We're clearly not. Like, that we knew. We do know, and we knew and we know what to eat. We're just so our big brains have confused us because we've created marketing and we've created
I was gonna say
laboratories, you know
marketing.
what I mean? Yeah, we've messed it up for us. We've messed up this intuition that we innately have. And I'm not saying in this modern world that we can truly get back to that, primal, intuitive place. I think it's very hard, but I do believe we could get closer. And it starts with you have to eat your food and you have to eat it slow enough and chew it enough and in enough of a parasympathetic state, like a relaxed state that you can actually hear the communication from, mindfully eating your food.
Yeah. And I think that's a great like closing argument in terms of leaving a legacy for your kids and for your family. And, when it comes to how you're nourishing your body before you conceive in pregnancy and then during pregnancy, you are literally changing generational health within your own womb. And then you give birth to that child, and now hopefully you're breastfeeding, and now you're still nourishing baby from your own body. And what you're putting into your body is directly affecting that child. And then as that child grows, to your point of now you're helping put food on the table for them and you're giving them opportunities to try different flavor profiles and kind of be that guiding light as they're growing up to then hopefully help them make good decisions for themselves through their own palate as they grow.
Absolutely, and the best place to pass forward the idea and the philosophy of health and to help pass that through to the next generation is by having it be a conversation, having it be a model at the dinner table.
Right.
When we take capsules, where do we do that? We do that in our bathrooms, we do that in the corners of our kitchens at the cabinet, right? But when you eat real food, now it's a part of the dinner table. It's a conversation. Hey, mom, what is this seasoning we're using? Why are we doing this? Hey, dad, what does that taste like? Can I try that? It's like we're not only modeling it, but it's like, oh, well, do you like that seasoning? I do. I love it. I love it. Love it. Like, I want more of it. Do you know what it is? Well, it's organ meats, and this is why they're so like, now it's a
Yes.
conversation, it's a passing forward of this ancestral knowledge. It's just half the time people are doing capsules, like, you don't even know what you're doing, you're just throwing darts at a board, and it's like, you're hoping that the next time you test that you got enough. You're hoping,
Right.
right?
Right. Yeah, that sums it up beautifully. And I just want to say thank you for the work that you've done in this space to make it easier on busy moms like myself, where it's a seasoning in my cabinet now. I make my eggs in the morning and my kids' scrambled eggs, and I can put that seasoning on it, and I know they're getting those little micro dosages. They don't get a multivitamin because I'm giving it to them through their food. And I just love the opportunity for conversation that you brought up there as you were speaking about at the dinner table. I was just literally envisioning our own dinner table, and my oldest is 6. So, we're just sprinkling in like knowledge bits now, but as they keep growing, to have that opportunity to educate them and make it seem normal to eat organ meats and not like, oh, that's gross. Like when they grow up with it, it's just a normal part of life.
I agree, and you're probably already getting a sense because if you have a 6-year-old, they probably if you're not homeschooling, they've already started school, right? So you're already getting witness of the fact that you lose control. Once they leave the house, now you
Uh,
don't always know what they're eating, and
yeah,
schools kinda do not share your principles. Public schools definitely, and most schools in general, doesn't matter if it's public, they just don't share your similar principles probably. And so the only way to really help to build that core kind of grounding around nutrition and food and the importance of what we eat and how it affects our body is at the home, at the dinner table. Everyone's sitting, eating together, and letting it be part of the conversation because it's what you do. And because the minute they leave the house, if they don't have that foundation, they're not going to get it. They're either going to get your foundation or they're going to get someone else's, and you want it
right.
yours because I would almost guarantee that someone else's is not gonna be as good.
That's such a good point, and I pack her lunch every day. She does go to our local school, but that's been something that's important for me to, control the controllables as a mom because you can't control everything as they get
You
older and
can't
they
y
keep
you
stepping
have
out, and
to
you
let
don't
it
want
go.
to. Yeah, they need
Totally.
to learn to make their own choices, and, that can be a whole 'nother conversation, but I've in this season of life as a mom, like, control the controllables and let the other things go, but just to be that guiding light for them as they continue to grow and learn. But James, thank you for today. And to those listening, if you would like to try Pluck, I do have a discount code with them that you can grab any of their Pluck seasonings for 15% off using code Dr. Kayla. That's DrKayla. I will link everything in the show notes so that you can check out Pluck. My favorite is the zesty garlic seasoning. That would be my kids' favorite too because it's not spicy. Like it's just got just the right amount of flavor, and they love it. I put it on their scrambled eggs, like tacos. I'll hide. I don't want to say hide, but we'll use the concentrated blend in beef as well for like tacos or chili. So there's just so many ways to integrate it into your diet. Over popcorn is also very yummy with the zesty garlic. So it's fun to get creative. It's right there. It's shelf stable, and so it's very easy to utilize. So, code Dr. Kayla will save you 15%. And as always, thank you for tuning in to Holistically Well. If today's episode resonated with you, be sure to share it with a friend. This is how we create a generational impact and change, one person at a time. Thanks again, James.